Hey everyone, a monster is waking up again in Kamchatka. What would that mean for the future? And we will talk about why this eruption could be just the beginning. And if you're a follower of my channel, I have reported about that volcano a few months ago, and now this thing is rumbling again, and it's a dangerous one. The Shiveluch Volcano in Kamchatka. Something intense and potentially catastrophic is happening there. This eruption of the Shiveluch volcano that just happened in Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula is something else. So Shiveluch has been extremely active starting 2 days ago, and things are getting serious. This isn't just any volcanic eruption. This is something that scientists are watching closely, because this eruption could mean much more than just an eruption in a remote area that nobody cares about. Nope, guys, stay tuned. This is something different. So let's look into what exactly happened at the Shiveluch volcano. Why is it so concerning? And what could this mean for this region, but also for the rest of the world? So what has happened? Just a day ago, Shiveluch erupted again, and it wasn't a subtle eruption. It was something else. So massive clouds of ash were thrown high into the sky, reaching heights up to 9 kilometers. That's over 5 miles. That is really high. And then, and this is the interesting part, how far did that ash spread? That ash was spread for about 120 kilometers heading eastwards. So before they were hit with the ashfall, the people in the area could already see the signs of this massive activity. And as I just said, this isn't the first time this year that Shiveluch has erupted. But the scale of the current eruption has grabbed attention. Authorities have issued warnings for local residents to not leave their homes, to stay indoors, to cover their faces, and to protect their lungs from all these particles. And you know, ash that's coming from these volcanic eruptions can be very toxic if you breathe it in. But not only that, I mean, for yourself, for the livestock, but also ash can damage crops, and it can also block the sunlight. And for air traffic, it's especially dangerous. So flights over the Kamchatka Peninsula right now are either canceled or they are rerouted to avoid these dangerous ash clouds. So this explosive event that Shiveluch has just produced is of course not its first explosive event. This volcano is a very active one. It has been active for thousands of years. So you might wonder, so why is everyone concerned now if this is like a normal thing? Well, because recently when we look at what Shiveluch has done, when we look at these eruptions, things have been intensifying. So above the normal range. So just a few months ago, remember, I reported about this. Shiveluch has erupted following a 7.0 earthquake that was happening nearby. And that eruption has sent ash clouds up to 5 kilometers high in the air. And that already has caused the red code for all the airplanes that were flying in the area or would fly above that area. And then before that, last year in April 2023, it has erupted so powerfully that the ash cloud has stretched across 108,000 square kilometers and has even reached a height of 20 kilometers. So really massive. So what are we dealing with here? What is Shiveluch? What kind of volcano is it? Shiveluch is a stratovolcano. This is, I always say this, the kind of volcano that looks like a volcano the most, because you see that mountain and it has a crater on top. So, but these stratovolcanoes are one of the most explosive and dangerous types of volcanoes. Remember Vesuvius, for example. So Shiveluch is a type of volcano that is basically built from hardened layers of lava consisting of lava, tephra, and volcanic ash. Tephra are these small, lighter volcanic rock particles. And whatever stratovolcano you're dealing with, stratovolcanoes have the capacity to produce massive eruptions that therefore then produce massive amounts of ash and gas that is thrown out into the atmosphere. And because of that, it's not just affecting the immediate area of these volcanoes, but it could potentially affect the whole planet, and that's not good at all. And here at Shiveluch, we have another thing that is concerning, because what we have underneath the Shiveluch volcano, and that is what feeds that volcano, is a magma chamber. But this magma chamber, they call it a super magma chamber. It's huge. This is a massive, massive magma chamber consisting of molten rock, magma. So the magma is stored there, and that is feeding the volcano. And what does that mean? If this magma chamber is very, very large, this volcano can potentially produce some very, very dangerous eruptions. So let's say that monster magma chamber were to fully erupt in one eruption, that could trigger an event with absolutely devastating consequences. So what we're talking about here is eruptions that could release so much ash and volcanic gases that it could alter global temperatures, and here it comes, for years. And maybe you have seen the video that I have released yesterday. It's a very, very interesting video, by the way. I'll put it in the end screen. It's about evidence that volcanoes like this have produced these catastrophic cooling events, have created ice ages and mini ice ages. And they found the evidence for this in ice core samples from Greenland and Antarctica. And they also found something that they date back to Campiflegre and how bad it really was. I mean, imagine you find this in ice core samples in Greenland and Antarctica, but also the Laki eruption. And you know, Iceland has produced a lot of bad stuff as well. So watch that video. It gives you a very, very good overview about what these volcanoes can do. And in light of that, I mean, it's absolutely clear that we will see another massive eruption like this. I mean, hopefully not in our lifetimes, but this will alter the Earth's climate again. And I'll show you this graph just quickly that I shown yesterday in my video, how quickly here the ice age was coming. It was like overnight, it was cooling down, and for 1,200 years, it has created another ice age. So in light of that, I'm always wondering, does that really make sense that we're like torturing ourselves with, you can't do this, you can't have a wood stove and this and that, and you know, global warming. Gosh, guys, it just needs one of those guys to explode massively and that problem is solved, and we have to deal with the opposite problem. So in my opinion, I think we should rather prepare for the opposite problem. What if we have global cooling because of one of these volcanoes or several of these volcanoes? Because then we're really doomed. That is what history shows us and how history shows us. Watch this video, guys. It's really, really interesting. But now let's get back to the present, to the Shiveluch volcano and what it's doing right now, because that is already not really something that should make us happy. It should make us really, really concerned. This magma chamber, this super magma chamber underneath the Shiveluch volcano is really also a big deal. So it's part of what makes this Shiveluch volcano so dangerous, because when you say this is a super magma chamber, it's just not your average reservoir of magma. It's a huge pool of magma. Magma is molten rock gas that is held under extreme pressure. Imagine you're blowing up an air balloon, and you know, you blow up more and more and more and more until it reaches the point of maximum elasticity, and then it's exploding, it's about to blow. And this is the same with these volcanoes. Like you have a bottle of champagne, sparkling wine, you shake it a little bit, the pressure is building up, and then from 1 millisecond to the next, the cork is flying out explosively. But this volcano, stratovolcanoes, they not only have one cork, they have millions of corks. That's why it's so dangerous. So the scientists suspect that if this super magma chamber underneath the Shiveluch volcano were to fully release all its contents, it could be so catastrophic, not only for Kamchatka, but for the entire northern hemisphere. And that's why I said, watch my other video, because there you have everything you need to know about what could happen. So let's say a large scale eruption at the Shiveluch stratovolcano happens. It could cause what is commonly known as volcanic winter. So that's when so much ash and gas are released into the atmosphere that they block the sunlight. And that has an immediate cooling effect. I don't know if you have ever seen a solar eclipse. Already when it starts to cover the sun, you already feel it getting cold and wind catching up. It's a frightening experience. And imagine this is done by a volcano and it's covering the sun for a very long period of time. So temperatures would cool. It would affect weather patterns worldwide. And of course, this could impact agriculture in many ways. I mean, if you're in a close range, everything will be covered with ash. Nothing will grow anymore. But without sunlight, nothing grows either. So then this has an effect on worldwide food supplies and ecosystems across continents, across the world. But also, how many people are at risk here? What are we talking about? So in the potential danger zone right around this volcano, we have thousands of people that live there. So there's local communities, especially those that are in Kamchatka. They are directly threatened by the ashfall, by hot particles falling on their buildings, setting them on fire. But if you're outside and you're hit by these explosive rocks, that can be very, very dangerous. So explosive pyroclastic flows. And then, of course, let's not forget lava flows. So everything together that this volcano will throw at people is very, very dangerous. But the ash clouds, of course, they always pose severe health risk, because these volcanic gases can be very, very toxic if you breathe in high concentrations or if you're too close to where the eruption is taking place. But, you know, even beyond Kamchatka, even regions that are very far from that volcano, they could feel the impact of a massive eruption, especially if it affects global weather and food production. So when the current unrest started, it started with a strong, explosive eruption and with a significant volcanic ash emission. And that ash plume, reports range from like altitudes of 11 kilometers, that's 36,000 feet above sea level. And then the ash cloud currently is drifting east-northeast, posing that threat to aviation. And it came with lightning, like really end of days scenario. I show you a picture here that was taken in the night, like these dark ash emissions, and you see the lightning. It's really, really as if someone is mad up there sending that down to earth. And then after that, of course, they put the aviation code to red, because they were even expecting that these ash plumes could become even higher, up to 15 kilometers. That's like 49,200 feet. And they say this is possible at any time. And how did this ash cloud move? It drifted with a speed of 18 kilometers per hour. That's roughly 11 miles per hour towards the east-northeast. And this eruption, of course, has been marked by striking volcanic lightning, but may have also triggered these pyroclastic flows. And here's a few videos and pictures that I put in the background while we're talking about it that people have posted on social media. It's really, really scary, especially with this lightning. So this is the Kamchatka Peninsula. That's a far eastern Russian area, northeast of another volcanic group that's named Klyuchevskaya. It's a hotspot for volcanic activity. And what scientists are saying that this stratovolcano that we're dealing with has had 60 large eruptions during the Holocene. That's a lot. And if you look at the summit here of Shiveluch, the summit of Shiveluch is marked by the remnants of what happens, right? It's a roughly 65,000-year-old structure that you see here. And basically, it's also surrounded by a 9-kilometer, like 5 miles wide caldera that was once breached to the south by a lava flow. And this is what you see here is a satellite image of Shiveluch that was taken on November 7th by Copernicus. There you see what's going on. What you see on that picture is that there's numerous lava domes that are coming out from the outer flanks of Shiveluch. And then these lava domes, what's also happened very frequently at Shiveluch is some walls of this lava dome are collapsing and then letting the lava out like a sudden lava flow. So these frequent collapses of the lava dome have also been a significant feature of the Shiveluch volcano and of its eruption history. And in our time, in 1964, there was a significant collapse, and that resulted in volcanic debris avalanches that covered much of the floor of the breached caldera. So now that we know it has this increased activity, what does that mean? Why is it so active lately? So the scientists believe that the recent eruption and the heightened seismic activity that we also see here at Kamchatka are signs, and that's not good, that the pressure is building up. Pressure building up in connection with a volcano, guys, that is never good. If you're watching my channel for a longer period of time, you already know that, right? As I just explained with the balloon, that's the pressure building up. So magma's rising, it creates fractures in that caprock layer that keeps the lid on, that keeps the magma underground. But that's fracturing by this pressure. It's getting more brittle. And then gases are released. It leads to eventually more frequent eruptions. And since this is such a buildup, a massive buildup, this could lead to even larger eruptions in the future. And that's what's so concerning. And we know that volcanoes give us warning signs. Some volcanoes more subtle, some volcanoes hit us with the hammer and say, hey, I'm coming. But we see the warning signs. Earthquakes, especially earthquakes, clustered earthquake swarms, gas emissions, changes in ground temperature. Let's talk about Campi Flegrei if you're watching my channel. There's these hot fumaroles coming out of the solfatara. They're measuring the temperatures. Are they rising? That means magma's rising, making everything hotter. And of course, land rise. If something is expanding underground, it lifts up the land. So these are the signs, and here comes the bad news. All these signs have been detected at Shiveluch in the recent month. And that's why the scientists are thinking that the volcano could be heading towards a major event. That's what they're saying, a major event. So, of course, the scientists know that they don't know. They can only give vague predictions. But, you know, if these signs are there, It is alarming that something could happen, but it doesn't mean that it will definitely erupt on a catastrophic scale. We don't know that, but what scientists are saying is the risk is high at the moment. Another problem with Shiveluch is it's not just sending out continuous lava flows that are flowing around like other volcanoes, what we've seen in Iceland with the fissure eruptions. So the biggest problem there is the lava flow, that it flows over areas of infrastructure. And yeah, the earthquakes that come before it, depending on where the eruption's taking place, can destroy and do some damage. And of course, if something erupts in a village or a town, that's a problem as well. But with Shiveluch, it is known for its explosive eruptions. You can't outrun these eruptions. It blasts out the material with immense force. And then it releases these pyroclastic flows, like clouds of superheated gas and ash and rocks that basically move down from the mountain at incredible speeds, obliterating anything in their path. You cannot outrun that. And these are very, very deadly flows. And that's why this volcano needs to be monitored so carefully. And of course, Shiveluch can do something else that's called volcanic bombs. That also doesn't really sound great, guys. So aside from its ash clouds that it spits out at very, very high altitudes, the pyroclastic flows, these explosive flows, it releases volcanic bombs. These are large chunks of rock that are thrown out during an eruption. And the thing is, although they're large, they can travel long distances and then cause significant damage. It's like a cannonballs that this volcano is shooting out. So what are the local authorities saying right now? What are they worried about, or what are they doing? So they're urging residents to stay indoors and of course avoid areas that are close to the volcano. That's good. They have a system. They're keeping people updated with real-time alerts and instructions at the moment, of course, mostly regarding air quality and the ash levels that are in the air. Many schools and businesses nearby have closed temporarily. Airlines are taking this seriously, so they're either canceling flights or trying to fly around these affected areas. So right now, what the scientists are doing, they're watching Shiveluch very, very closely. They're watching for these significant changes in seismic activity. They're measuring the gas emissions and the ground deformation, the land rise. So they're still looking for signs that could give them an indication whether this is leading up to an even bigger eruption than we have just seen. And the volcanologists are particularly concerned about the intensity on the one side, but also about the frequency of these eruptions that at the moment are happening at Shiveluch. So they say if the current activity continues or even increases, this really might indicate that this magma chamber is becoming more pressurized. And the more pressure that's building up there, the greater the chance for a massive eruption. And more bad news. Sorry, the scientists are warning that we could not only see a big catastrophic eruption, but it could only mean that the signs that we're seeing could indicate that Shiveluch is entering a different period of activity, so that we could see that it's entering a phase of prolonged volcanic activity. So where smaller eruptions lead up to a much larger one. So a lot of small eruptions in this case don't mean, oh, it's releasing pressure, so the pressure is getting lower, so the chances for a big one are decreasing. It's the opposite. But there's other scientists that believe that the increased activity could release enough pressure to prevent that catastrophic event. So there's two sides of the story. which one is right. I mean, we have to hope that the ones that say the small eruptions are releasing the pressure, it would be good if they are right. But the truth is, predicting these eruptions and the size of these eruptions is incredibly difficult. The science is not far enough progressed to really tell us what's coming. What we need to make clear to ourselves, this Shiveluch volcano is one of the most active and dangerous volcanoes in the world. And with these recent eruptions and signs of increasing activity, there could be something major on the horizon. So that's why scientists are watching it closely, but also they're preparing for the worst case scenario. So guys, this was my update. Again, check out my latest video here in the end screen. It's really very, very interesting, especially if you're also interested in what Kamchatka in Italy is doing. But it's also about other volcanoes in Iceland and traces and some mysterious volcano whose traces they found in Antarctica and simultaneously in Greenland, but they don't know where it's coming from. They don't find the volcano. So what happened? Very, very interesting. Guys, thank you so much. Stay safe, be prepared wherever you are. And if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes, become a member of my channel. The link is in the description of this video, or click the join button. I see you there. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye.